How can you match into a competitive specialty?
When I started med school, I met with my advisor, and the first thing he said was, "What do you want to go into?" And I answered dermatology. And his first response was, "Think of something else. That's way too hard to get into." I was so naive when I started med school. I didn't know that you had to match into specialties. I thought you just picked what you wanted to do, and that was that. And so when I found out how competitive dermatology was, I was a little intimidated, but not deterred. And I think that's the main thing, is that you can't lose that passion or that fire. People ask me when I was submitting my rank list, "What's your plan B? What's your backup plan?" There was no plan B. This was it. There was nothing else I wanted to do besides dermatology. And so how can you match into dermatology? Well, dermatology is extremely competitive. It just is. That's the reality. There's more applicants than there are spots, but how can you get one? If you're going into a competitive field like dermatology, usually in your last year of medical school, you have the option to do away rotations. And those are rotations where you can go for a couple weeks to a month and work at a program that you would potentially want to match at. And that is one of the best things you can do, because dermatology is such a small world and such a small program that programs want to know that you're a hard worker, you fit in with the culture, and that you'll be an asset to the program. I was fortunate enough to do 3 away rotations at 3 programs that I potentially wanted to match at. And that was very beneficial, because that takes you from being just a piece of paper to a person. You can show yourself, you can show your personality, your work ethic, your drive, your passion, and your resourcefulness, helping the residents, helping out in clinic, going above and beyond. When you're on your away rotation, that is your chance to shine. You don't ever want to be late. You don't ever want to be the first one to leave. You don't ever want to have an excuse for anything. You want to be the first one in the door. You want to ask, "What can I help with? Is there any task that you don't like doing?" to the residents? "I'll do it. I'm happy to do it." Clean the exam rooms, take out the trash, things that can just make everyone's life easier, so that when people think of you, they say, "Oh, that person was helpful. They actually volunteered to do things that most people don't like to do." There's always circumstances, but you don't ever want to ask to leave early. That is your time to show how passionate you are. You already have a foot in the door. Now you want to try to keep it. You are fighting for your spot. So that is the number one most important thing that you can do, is try to do away rotations at places you would like to match. And while you're there, work your tail off. Do everything you can to show what kind of person you are, how valuable you are, and how much you want it. Some other things you can do to match into dermatology. This could be a controversial take, but I know a lot of influencers saying, "I only applied to programs that were in cities I wanted to live." My controversial take is, I kind of did the opposite. I looked at programs that maybe were in smaller cities, maybe less known cities, but had great programs. Well, why not apply there? My thought process was, I will do anything that it takes to get into dermatology. Why? Because it's a 3 to 4 year training program for the rest of your life. I would live anywhere for 3 to 4 years if it meant I got to be a dermatologist for the rest of my life. I personally know people that applied only to a small number of programs because they were only in cities they wanted to live, and they ended up not matching. Whereas I applied to cities I thought other people wouldn't want to live, but had great programs, because I was willing to go anywhere and do anything, because dermatology was my one passion and the main thing I wanted to do. Now, I ended up at an amazing program, and I thought I got some of the best training in the country, but it was in a smaller city, and I think flew under the radar a little bit because not a lot of people wanted to live in a smaller city.